back to another great episode of the Bluegrass Soccer Cast, your home for all things soccer right here in the beautiful state of Kentucky. I'm, of course, Mr. Jimmie. That's Mr. John. And John, I know we just asked each other this off camera, but I want to ask you on camera. What is your favorite kind of chip?
So overall, I really don't care that much. I don't like super spicy chips, but like
So no like death chips or anything like that.
no, like none those like purple Doritos or whatever, or taquitos, all that type of stuff I
Oh,
don't like. Um, but that my like go to is the Lay's dill pickle if I'm buying a chip.
I am very I don't know. I like chips, but I don't eat a lot. But if I'm gonna eat it, it's gonna be one of two kinds. It's gonna be jalapeno chips because my wife put me onto those a couple of years ago, and ooh, baby, those are good. Or two, just a classic barbecue, nothing fancy, just classic barbecue in that black bag. Ooh, can't get much better.
Now I
But
will
that's
say the best chip brand is called Better Made.
better made.
It's a
Okay.
Michigan company.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, I haven't heard of those. Um, but so, John, with that, then we will now go off the top. And John, not a whole lot of news to kind of talk about this week, but a couple of areas that I did want to kick off with. First one within our state, Racing Louisville made several roster moves ahead of this weekend's matchup. First and foremost, South African forward Thimby returned to the what's the word I'm looking for? The roster for the game for Racing Louisville. Which was great to see. Glad that she is back fully with the team, and ready to rock and roll. The next one was midfielder Alex Chidiak was sent on loan to Mexican side Tigres, which I'm really excited to see Alex go and do something with Tigres and maybe win a league cup down there. But it is kind of bittersweet because she was one of the players I was really looking forward to watching coming back from the World Cup with Racing Louisville. And then finally, midfielder Taylor Almir, who had joined Racing Louisville on a temporary contract, has now signed a contract through the rest of the year. John, kind of looking at these moves, anything of note, any comments that you might have?
Um, it kind of sucks for Chidiak, in my opinion, a little bit because in the World Cup she was barely used and that type of thing, and now she's going on loan. However, she's going on loan to arguably one of the best supported clubs in Mexico, and I don't know if people know it's like La MX Mexica Feminale.
Great
Is one
job.
of
That's
the
way better than I would have done.
is actually is one of the top leagues. So it's like growing really well because I don't know that much about Mexican soccer, but the corruption's not as much there. For those who don't know, a lot of Liga MX has been rooted in corruption lately.
Shock. Mexico in corruption scandals.
It's like it's worse than like Italy though. Like it's a lot.
Oh God, that's when you know you're really bad. When you get compared to worse than Italy.
It's a lot more stuff, and it got so bad that's why they closed their league. So for any of those who have dealt with anti-pro rel, people are like, "Well, Liga MX doesn't do it. Liga MX is back to pro rel. They closed their league because they had so much politic problems that they had to close their league because it was causing issues."
Yeah, and it's never good when you have to go from a closed system or from an open system like they had to a closed system. But good to see Chidiak going to a team that she's gonna. I mean, I would be stunned if she wasn't starting for them, if not just getting significant playing time off the bat. I meant to say this a few moments ago, but I forgot. We are watching the University of Louisville and Bellarmine tonight. They're playing right now at Lynn Stadium. They're in Louisville. The battle of the 502 Derby, the Louisville City Derby. What were some of the other suggestions that you saw there, John?
Uh, so on my, let me pull it up. On
Yeah,
mine,
because John reposted.
I only got like one guy said something. Andrew Bums. He said the Derby City Derby, the
That
River
was a good
City
one.
rivalry, the Derby City College Cup. Um,
Ooh.
here's the thing. One, I understand Louisville's on the river, but you're not a river city. I'm sorry,
You're
like
not Cincinnati.
respectfully, not even Cincinnati. Like a river city is like Pittsburgh or like Pittsburgh, New York, these type of things where like there's multiple rivers or there's like a lot
Yeah.
of waterways and stuff. You being on a river is not that uncommon or unique. But
Well, but in the way
this
our
is the
country was
history
formed,
person coming.
yes, it
Yeah,
was.
this is not even our country. This is everywhere. London, Paris, Florence, Rome,
London,
all of them
Paris,
are
maybe
on rivers.
Tokyo.
Barcelona is a coastal city. Madrid's on a river. All cities get put on rivers for shipping reasons. So being
Right.
on the river is not something. The Dirty River Derby or rivalry that Louisville has with Cincinnati makes sense because they're both on the same river. That's one thing.
Right.
But like the River City Derby, you're not a river city. I don't associate Louisville with like the Kentucky River. I know it's
So
on it, but
for everyone in Louisville, his Twitter handle is at J_Hunt1123. Direct all your comments towards him, please and thank you. I'm a big fan of calling it Louisville City Derby just because of what you just said. Like, don't worry about any geographical features or anything like that. One of the things from this match that I am interested to see is, pardon me, um, current Lou City player, Cade. I can't remember his last name. He's the young kid who came in early this season from their academy. He actually plays for Bellarmine, not the University of Louisville. So I thought that was quite interesting.
and also of note, UK men are playing East Tennessee State, which is the alma mater of Charlie Mitchell of
Absolutely.
Lexington. Uh, in it, I kind of he posted on his story about it, like being at the game, which it's in Lexington. I kind of went like one time, you're gonna be like rooting against you,
Right. And that score, at least as far as I know, is still 0-0 because they kicked off right at 7, right?
Yeah, I'm at 7:30, so they're
Oh,
they're in their 32nd minute, and it is currently 0-0.
okay. And college soccer throws me off, or at least some of them do, because some of them it counts down, some of them it counts up. I can't keep up with things
I
sometimes.
don't
It's kind of
know what
confusing.
it's doing in the stadium, but I know at least ESPN count when it's on ESPN, they count up. So I
I'm
don't know
watching it on
necessarily.
ESPN for the Louisville game, and it's counting down. It's because I've seen it both ways. I
Oh,
literally had last week. I was watching U of L women versus Indiana State, and Murray State versus I don't remember who beat us. And one was counting up, and one was counting down, both on ESPN. I was so confused.
it might then they might go off the stadium clock. Then that's probably what it
That's the
is.
only thing I could think of.
I just don't. I will say this about college soccer. I do not like EKU and even Berea did this. They'll do a countdown because they don't do stoppage time.
Right. Oh,
And
so
so
the
sometimes
three,
they'll do,
two,
yeah, they'll
one.
do like 10. I'm just like, just play. Like honestly, just
Oh,
let
but
it
it's
go.
exciting though. Like that brings in like that atmosphere of like
But the
college
PA
basketball.
announcer does it.
I mean,
I'm sorry, the PA, let the fans do it. That's one thing, but the PA, and imagine if like the PA announcer in football or in basketball just started going 10, like just loud. That would be
some of them
no.
do. So I've been in some stadiums, Moorhead, talking about you here. Their PA, at least at that time, would go 10, 9, and get the crowd really into it. We do have a goal in Lexington. George Washington, no, not that George Washington, the other George Washington, has scored for UK to go up 1-0, 31 minutes in. Oops, and that caused my ESPN to crash. Great, awesome, love it.
I haven't
So
seen that.
I got the Twitter update. Maybe they're reviewing it or something. Well, there's no VAR. What are we talking about?
I'm on ESPN Plus and saying it's in the 34th minute right now, and there's no goal.
LOL. Well, I don't know what Twitter's doing. Twitter lies. Um, Anyways, so back on topics here. So it was sad to see Alex leave, but excited for Taylor getting added to the roster for the rest of the season, as well as seeing Thimby come back. But we'll break down what happened in Lou City's draw with New York, New Jersey, Gotham, FC, A, B, C, D, E, F, G here in a little bit. But I did want to briefly talk about college soccer here as the UK men's team are quickly racking up several different high rankings. There was just right before this, we reposted it on our Twitter account, which is, of course, at BG Soccercast, that they were ranked number 2 in a power ranking from NCAA men's college soccer, as well as they were, John, would you say number 6 in the coaches poll?
3.
To start
So,
number 3 to start the
so the
year.
NCAA goes off of the United Soccer Coaches Poll as their official ranking. It's similar to the AP in basketball and football, but it's like among soccer coaches. The ranking we tweeted out today, and they did it on Instagram too, I believe.
Did they?
That's just kind of the first thing. Power rankings are like just they take like 2 or 3 people's opinions and just throw them in there. Like personally, it was a bit of a clickbaity in my opinion because some teams had only played one game, and I'm sorry,
Like
you
UK
cannot
at that time?
determine. Yeah, you cannot determine best teams in the country when they play one game. Genuinely one game. Like I don't know how good Florida Gulf Coast University is, but they weren't ranked. Or it says in that same thing, they said how Stanford beat 2 ranked teams and they were only 3rd or something around
Right.
that.
So
And I
how
was
did
like,
that happen?
in my opinion, like as much as we're like pro UK and pro Kentucky, like that's better than beating one unranked team.
Yeah, that seems to be an odd ranking, but hey, it got us to talk about it. So shout out to you, NCAA men's soccer on Twitter and Instagram. You guys to shout you
Yeah.
out.
And the men's
John, the
soccer
last
thing for
go for it.
UK was a substitution.
What do you mean?
They the thing you were talking about for UK in the 31st minute, that was Logan Dorsey being subbed in for Casper Greening.
I swear it said goal. Maybe I can't read. Anyways, last thing to talk about for off the top today, John, is a bit of sad news. It was announced early or mid last week that the SD Loyals out in San Diego, California, will cease operations after the 2023 season. With the new MLS club coming to San Diego, the SD Loyals just really couldn't get a foothold. There was a very heartfelt video by one of their owners, one of Landon Donovan's partners, um, that really just kind of outlined they couldn't find a permanent stadium. They were struggling to get some additional fan support and to really grow what they were trying to build. And I think that's inevitably what happened to the club. I think they got doomed by no permanent location, and some other issues that they were having, and here we are.
Yeah. Um, it's hard. Like Dan Creel tweeted about this earlier. It's hard to label how much this is on MLS coming in.
It
because
has to, it's
yeah,
only on the MLS coming in.
I well fully from the stuff I found and things is that they still would have had their temporary stadium of Torito Stadium like available for them. So it's not like they were like being kicked out or their
Right.
lease or whatever was up. So it wasn't like in the sense that yes, this is because of MLS. The question is how much is it because of
I'm
MLS?
putting it 80+%.
Because you MLS isn't coming in until 2025. We have seen other clubs survive when the MLS comes in. One,
Well, maybe.
Charlotte
I was
being
reading
one.
another
We've
article
seen
about them,
Chattanooga FC has survived when the Red Wolves came in, type thing. So
and they
we've
may have got a
seen,
promotion.
yeah, so we've seen it that they've somewhat survived and stuff, or at least stuck it out. I will say I do not like this way the MLS does this of just giving it. I feel like you should just go to the franchise and
Yes.
like as much like for example with Lou, as much as it would suck if some guy just comes in and goes how much to literally buy everything and then they gut the team, the fact that the club and where they play and that everything would still be the same, even if they literally gutted the entire, they got rid of everybody and they just brought in their own people. That's
Right.
still better than just some random person with $500 million coming into Louisville and launching their own team with the MLS. As like I know Lou fans hate Cincinnati. I would much have rather that to whoever is in this ownership group. I know Manny Machado is with the MLS. He's like the name I know. If they just went to the Loyal and be like, "Hey, how much for us to take you up?" Or how much to just for us to become the primary owners or something along those lines if they just wanted to be majority owners or something like that. Because now you're on Landon Donovan's bad side, at least, which is good or bad depending on who you talk to about him.
I mean, so I spent a week in San Diego last year, and that was one of the things that I wanted to do. So I went to their training facilities. I talked to some of their training staff and stuff like that, and the local people in San Diego, they loved the Loyals. Like they were so proud to have them there. They were so excited that they chose the name Loyal because that's exactly how they felt about themselves as fans of a San Diego based soccer team. They were so loyal to them. And it was so important for them to be there and to represent the community. And I know that Snapdragon Stadium, the new stadium for San Diego State, that's where the MLS team is going to go. But San Diego State is even having trouble filling that stadium. I don't know. I mean, of course, a brand new MLS team, yeah, they're going to sell it out for the first 2 or 3 months, right? But I don't know what the long term viability will be if they don't really fill in the gap that the Loyals are currently holding.
Well, to be fair, the San Diego Wave are averaging almost 20,000 a game. They're leading the NWSL. And that's another thing. It's I think there's a part for it with there have been too many teams because you have the way if all of them stay operating, San Diego would have four teams because
Which is a lot.
they would have the Wave and the MLS team, which I think they're calling San Diego FC or something along those lines. The Loyal, and then there's Albion
Hmm.
of Nisa. So that's four teams, and Albion's not hugely supported, but they're still supported. The Wave are supported. Yes, there is a large community in um in San Diego. It's like 3.2 million, and then there's these rumors of like a Wimbledon esque Loyals searching around.
Yeah. Now that was the last point that I was going to bring up here. That if you're a fan of the SD Loyals and you live in Kentucky, good on you. Um, they may not truly be done. In a now since deleted post that I saw on Reddit, there seems to be a movement of the fans to rebirth this club, a Phoenix club, if you will, and calling themselves AFC Loyal San Diego. And from what the post had said, was that they had had conversations with the ownership group that they were going to start in the UPSL and look to get back into the USL if things go well within a couple of years.
Yeah, and the AFC, the idea of it is, for those who don't know their English history, which if you deal with any anti-pro rel, they'll bring up this club a lot, is Wimbledon FC was a team in England, was original founding member of the Premier League. They were the Dons and all this type of stuff. And then going into the late 90s, they fell out and they dropped to either the championship or League Two, League One. And then their stadium situation was getting weird. They had an owner come in and he basically, so in England, you never really see a team move, but you saw this. This guy took Wimbledon and moved them north to Milton Keynes, where they became the MK Dons. And then the fans of Wimbledon created a Phoenix club called AFC Wimbledon, which now plays, I believe, League Two or League One.
League Two, they play with oh my God, Wrexham. There it is. AFC Wimbledon, owned by John Green. That's right, fellow YouTuber, just like us.
He's a partial owner of them, yeah. But
we were on the same level.
You'll see a lot of anti-pro rel people bring up that side because they're like, "Oh, this is a club that folded, yada yada." And I was like, they did not fold. They had an owner who came in and did not want to keep the team there because he couldn't get a stadium deal. That's not folding. Like that's not like the Tampa Bay Mutiny folding because of financial reasons.
Yeah, that was complete collapse.
That's not literally any of the U.S. clubs are dealing with financial issues because there's no pro rel because they get stuck where they're at and their financials either dry up or they can't figure out financial stuff. Where you can self relegate, but it's not the same type thing as just dropping down when you can't get your ducks in a row and then going back up type thing. And that's,
you can look at examples of like Richmond Kickers and North Carolina as teams that have kind of self relegated.
And North Carolina's going back up. They figured out their books. They got everything situated and they're going back up. And a lot of anti-pro rel people like to cite like 600 clubs in England have folded. The problem is England has been around for 100 plus years. And two, none of those, to my knowledge, within the last 100 years at least, or at least the last 50 or 60 type thing, have folded being in the actual English Football League, which is the top 4 leagues. So, seventh division club has folded, or 8th division. These really lower teams that you never hear about unless you're truly local have folded. But
if that's your community team.
There wasn't a team that was in the Premier League one year and then was just gone the next. That has not happened like it has happened with the Mutiny or other MLS teams or the entire NASL.
But except for New York Cosmos. Last thing to kind of add.
The NASL. The entire NASL folded.
Last thing to add here about this potential rebirth of this loyal franchise. The ownership, seemingly from a random Reddit post, so who heck knows if that's even reputable, did mention that it would be a community-based ownership system. So that would be something more akin to what the Green Bay Packers have, for those who are unfamiliar with that kind of a model. So that could be really interesting to see if it can continue. That's how a lot of European clubs, especially English clubs, operate. If you go back and you watch Wrexham that first season, that's exactly what they were. They were community owned, and then Ryan and Rob went in and talked to them, and bought the franchise from them. But uh, I'm interested to see what happens out in San Diego. They loved the Loyals. I hope that they can support the MLS side, and they can continue to have a great system down there in San Diego.
Um, Community-based ownership, I feel, needs to would be beneficial in America at times, like the 50 plus one rule of Germany. But there's also times where I'm like, eh. And we'll talk more about this on Wednesday.
And that is a great teaser right there, John. Um, on Wednesday, if you are not a fan of Pro Rel, make sure you come back on Wednesday night to this podcast, because we will be talking about what are the cons, what are the bad side of promotion and relegation. John and I are both very passionate that it should happen and that it would be very entertaining. But hey, we also don't have any money in on any of this. So um, come back on Wednesday, especially if you want to join our conversation, get into the chat, and post things so that we can, kind of hear what you're thinking as well. But John, with that out of the way, um, if you enjoy watching our content and you would like to support the channel, we have a buy me coffee account. We take these donations, we put it 100% back into the show and into this channel. So every dollar that's donated is going right here. We appreciate any and all contributions, but we don't have a paywall or anything like that. We never will. All of our content will remain free, but we do really, really appreciate all the support that we get. But with John, that out of the way, let's jump into the majority of our conversation today, which is going to be the bottom line. And John, this is the first week that we will actually be doing professional and college in the same episode. So this is
To the
gonna
best of
buckle your
our ability.
seatbelts. Yes, to the best of our abilities. Buckle up, folks. This is gonna take a while. John, I first want to start on a very happy, excited news note. Lou City actually won their match against Oakland Roots this past weekend, 2-1. Oscar Jimenez played the role of hero with a stoppage time
Jimenez.
winner. Jimenez, thank you. With a stoppage time winner volleying it from the top of the box, completing what was a thrilling comeback. And yes, I was very excited when I saw that. I had a family event, so I didn't get to watch it. But my gosh, when I saw the highlights, I was very excited.
Okay. If I'm still, and Blue City fans, you can help. I still am unsure why the first goal was called off. Have you figured out exactly why?
Nope, I do not.
The
I
only way,
cannot tell you.
the only thing I can think of is that they interfered with the keeper when he was
But they would
going
have
for the
said that. I
ball.
don't think they ever said any of it. They just wiped
Yeah,
it away.
yeah. I don't know. It's
It,
led to some interesting stuff from what I've seen of Blue City fans. And I was at the
yeah.
Lexington game during this and it was raining for the first half of that, so I was not pulling out my phone because it was pouring rain. So I wasn't able to. And I've watched the replay where they show it like 5 times, and I still am like, why,
Yeah,
why?
I don't understand it. And really truly, like, it was quite disappointing to see that goal be disallowed, because it should have been an easy goal. It should have been something that was a no brainer. But for whatever reason, the official jumped on his horse that day and thought, you know what, I'm going to try and screw Lou City. And it almost did. If Oscar hadn't put in that stoppage time winner, that would have been a dangerously hard pill for Coach Cruz and the rest of the team to take. I personally, after watching it, like you said, John, I watched it multiple times. I have no clue what the official was seeing. I don't know why he thought that was not a goal, but the official called what he called, unfortunately, and Lou City had to fight back the rest of the match, and they did a great job of coming back. Showed a lot of resilience, a lot of grit um, to get the equalizer. Because right after that goal was called off, is when Oakland scored.
Yeah.
But like I said, a lot of resilience showed by Lou City, getting the vital 3 points. Brian Ownby actually was the one who hit that equalizer. Well, what should have been the second goal, if we're being honest, in the
It was
71st
a
minute.
very interesting equalizer.
Yeah.
Because he like first
Um,
touches it up to himself and then he like hits it. I don't think I've ever seen someone like pop the ball up to themselves and head it.
yeah. And like I said, that should have been two. That should have been Lou City should have been up 2-1 at that time. But again, in the USL, we don't have freaking VAR, so I don't know what.
I think
Still hot. You're getting even hotter about it.
the funny thing is I think Lynn does because I think the
They have the
NWSL has
technology.
VAR. Yeah, but
Yes, they
it's the
have the
case
technology.
of it's the case with like the championship in England
Yes, the league
is
doesn't.
that well yeah, the stadiums can have it, but the league has to have it or a majority or something like that where it has to be fair or that just gives Lou like a huge home advantage if they have VAR versus like Oakland. Even if
I,
the VAR goes
see,
against them,
okay, now I'm
but
gonna get really
you
mad because like I don't care. Like if you can't afford to get VAR in your own freaking stadium, why are you in the USL champion? If this is supposed to be the league competing with the MLS as potentially the second D1 league in our country, there's no excuse that there shouldn't be VAR in every stadium. And Oakland, you're a great example, and you pick on my nerves a little bit because you play at Laney College, a tiny nothing college. Yes, they had the whatever Last Chance U was there. Great show, loved it, really enjoyed it. They actually had a player who went and played for Murray State the year after that. Fun fact. But you play at a tiny stadium. Like if this is truly Oakland's team and Oakland's community and one of the few remaining professional sports in Oakland, put some freaking money into getting them their own stadium, or at least in Laney Stadium, putting in VAR and making that stadium as awesome as those people in Oakland deserve. Sorry, I'm literally sweating now.
you're no, you're all good. I do think if the pro rel thing gets voted on and the league decides to go for D1 sanctioning, I can see the USSF saying, "All right, you got it, but within 2 years, all your stadiums have to have VAR or something of the
Yes.
sense."
I mean,
Because
even if they went and played at the dump hole that is where the
that could just be
the
what
the A's
CONCACAF
play,
tells them to. That could just be what CONCACAF also
maybe.
tells them to do. Be like, if you want to compete in the Champions League, which if they got D1 sanctioning would mean they would get an entry into the CONCACAF Champions League of some sort, whether
Right.
that's like qualification or something along those lines.
And I mean,
The,
technically,
the
there is a path for that through the Open Cup, right? But be
it's
realistic.
not as straightforward. If they got D1 sanctioning, it would be guaranteed one
Agreed.
team at least
Yeah.
would be in the Champions League.
And I don't know why FIFA wouldn't help support that as well. Like I'm sure they would, right? Like there's no doubt that FIFA, CONCACAF, USSFF, sorry, my brain just skipped. United States Soccer Federation would always be behind something like that. But back to Lou City here. Enough on Oakland. With the win, Lou City moves back into the top four, potentially securing them a home playoff game to start the playoffs. Meanwhile, uh, Oakland takes a little tumble down the standings by not getting a draw because Oakland is a really good, solid team. Um, Coach Cruz talked about how he used the performance last week and talking about how poor his team played, really challenged them, challenged their pride, and really pushed them to be as gutsy and be as resilient as possible. And it showed on the field. His formation of 4-3-3 paid off in this game, unlike some of their more recent ones where they kind of fell flat and those three in the back couldn't hold up.
Yep. It looked a little much better. The attacks looked really good. You can't talk, but the defense is still a little shaky. Semele back got y'all out of a lot of bad situations.
He is so good.
He had
He's
to
so
make
good.
two or three of those saves for like game like keeping the score, and he prevented Oakland from having the extra time winner in like a minute before Jimenez's goal. But yep,
Right.
Lou is now fourth. It's looking unlikely they're going to break the top three because they are 6 points out of Charleston. So that's with what, 6 games left, 6, 7.
And I think Charleston's got both victories against Louisville. Is that right?
Yeah,
Or one win, one draw, or something like that?
yeah, it's going to be tough. But what Lou needs to do is to need to keep winning because the bottom, the like 5 through 7 are within shot of them. Specifically, Memphis and Indy are both within 2 of them, so they
Yep.
can't. They don't have any room to stumble if they want to keep a home playoff game.
And things aren't getting any easier for Louisville. They head on the road this weekend at Colorado Springs. Big road trip.
Colorado is without 2 of their starters. They got double red
Look at
card
that
in
insight
their
right
last
there.
game.
Wow, they had double red card. They were playing with 9.
Yeah, let me pull it up. Their last match, they lost to Monterey Bay, and they got one, both. They're missing both their strikers, their starting strikers, who they picked up 2 yellows, type thing. That was the red card with
Okay, red
Richmond
card on
against.
accumulation.
Yeah, again, the red card that was picked up by Richmond and Lexington was the same way. It was 2 yellows in the same match.
Gotcha.
Well, no, they had three reds. Whole.
Wow.
Their
So
2
Louisville,
strikers picked up yellow, but a center back Musa for the switchbacks picked up a straight red.
so Louisville, Simile, and that entire back line, Adams and everyone else back there. This is your time to get a clean sheet. John, you said they're out their top 3 strikers, or at least their top 2.
They were so at least from the lineup, the
Uh-huh.
switchbacks will be without their front 2 of Foster and Feigelberg, and they'll be
Well done.
without one of their center backs in Musa. Foster and Feigelberg picked up 2 yellow cards in one game, which is a red, and then Musa has got a straight red. So we'll see if I'll need to watch this game back to see if any of these are worthy of being overturned, because that can happen. But they're gonna be missing, at least as of right now, they'll be missing 3 of their starting 11.
Wow. Well, so for a full breakdown of that Lou City Colorado Springs matchup, come back to our show on Wednesday where we will give that full breakdown. But in my opinion, things are looking quite positive in Louisville. And again, as we said on Twitter, I'm very happy now. Thank you, Louisville.
Hey, calm yourself. So last time you did this, you
Shut
sent them
up.
into a
Stop it.
spiral.
No, don't do that. Don't do that to me.
You
I'm on a
called them
high
back.
right now.
I just asked a question.
I
You're
am
like,
on
yes,
a
they are
cloud.
back. I was like, mm-hmm.
I am on a cloud right now, and I think I'm on the 9th one. It feels so good. Speaking of teams that are playing pretty good, let's stay in Louisville. Let's talk about Racing Louisville. Racing Louisville had a bit of an interesting 0-0 draw with Gotham FC.
They escaped with a 0-0 draw.
Yeah.
Particularly, what is her name? It's like Erica. She's the keeper. Erica Lind.
Katie Lund.
Katie Lund. That's what. Sorry. She particularly lucked out in that stoppage, first half stoppage time, because credit to Gotham, they did the high pressure thing, and she just collapsed because you looked and there was two Gotham players,
Yeah.
and no
What do you
other
do?
racing player was giving her any help whatsoever.
Right.
No one was getting close to help her out. How Gotham didn't score there is like a miracle because there's no the racing escaped with a draw because they didn't really have an attack going much that game either. That it was
Nope.
all defense.
And specifically on that play, I remember seeing Abby Eric Erceg. I'm sorry,
Irk,
uh, Erg, and Julie
irk.
Lester. They kind of were split, and when the pass came across, it was wide open to Gotham players heading right towards Katie Lund, and as you said, John, she got very lucky. But John, I was most disappointed, and maybe I was just looking for the good story, right? That Racing Louisville didn't score. I was disappointed that Paige Monahan didn't score. I was disappointed that Savannah didn't score, that Thimby didn't score, that all of these players coming back, Paige coming back to Gotham after it's where she was last year, all the World Cup stars like back in it, ready to go, and you can't get a goal. I was disappointed.
I like I said, they didn't really have an attack. Tamela had probably the best chance at it
She did.
early and later, but did that get saved by the keeper or blocked by a defender?
I
I can't
think it
remember.
was blocked.
Yeah, it got blocked for a corner.
Yeah, blocked
Um,
out for a corner.
but they but this is like what I was saying when we were getting back to it. It's the final third is racing's issue. And I think it's an issue of they don't know how to use their attacking pieces.
Right.
They are still trying to figure out, okay, we have all this great attack. Um, remember, Demilla and Ari are more attacking midfielders with that both can play good defensively. So I'm not really talking about them. I'm talking about Shang, Themby, all of them.
Oh, and Shang, I was disappointed that she didn't like. I thought she played okay, but like I was expecting more
Well,
from her.
Shang did what Shang has kind of done what she's done all year, where she's kind of just not there. She's
Yeah, just disappeared.
it's a forgettable performance,
Yes,
and that's the thing that a lot of people say about Shang is that like when she's there, and
right.
she's very much on her day. But when she's not, it's like she makes no impact,
Well,
and she's just kind of
and people came
she
to
is
see
there,
her.
but it's like yeah. So it's we'll have to see like, and this is why I need to tell everybody. It's really hard to judge teams one through highlights and stuff like that because my wife had a dinner thing with her family, so I wasn't able to fully watch this either. It's hard to tell through highlights, and it's hard to tell on TV some issues because they can't see the full field.
Right.
Soccer is very much a game that has to be watched in person for you to truly understand teams and see how they work and stuff. I know myself, I've caught myself less watching the ball against when I watch Lexington and more just watching the formation and stuff happen.
Watching the chess game
Um,
happen.
yeah, because that's like this is how you can tell if a player is really good or not. Is if they like reacting to the ball, or are they actively thinking where do I need to be next? Like how that's how well you can tell if a shape works. Is how is this? Are they keeping their form? Is the back line staying together? Are they when the winger pushes up? Are they swing like tilting their formation to account for that sort of thing? And that's hard to see in person with all the camera cuts and all that jazz type thing. But that's what we'll find out on Saturday.
Yeah. So, and again, we'll talk about it in depth on Wednesday. But Portland Thorns come to Louisville for that game, and things aren't all doom and gloom for Racing Louisville, right? It is they move into a better playoff position with the point gained, so things aren't over yet. The skies aren't dark yet. Just like a cumulus cloud has come over the pitch for now. But one way to clear a cloud away is to have a party. And that is what is going to be happening Saturday in Louisville. Racing Louisville hosting Portland Thorns, and Bluegrass Soccercast will be in the house. All three of us will be there. We will have sideline photos. John and I will be up in the booth. We'll be doing a live pregame show. We're going to be doing some halftime stuff and post-game coverage, including talk to Coach Kim Jorgensen, possibly. Yep, close enough. Sorry, Kim. And we
Yeah,
are very, very excited to go there. So make sure that you
and
get out.
it is Pride Night for those who need to know. The Legion are doing something for that, but in general, just message us if you want to connect with us. Our
Absolutely.
We really don't have any plans outside of the game, so if you want to tailgate any of that sort, let us know. I've never been to Lynn, so
You're
let
in for
me
a treat,
like
my friend.
let me know what I need to do, what drink or what is it, scrap? What is the term in soccer that they say? It's like an S word. There's whole
Scruple?
Twitter accounts. It's like footy scrum or something like that.
I have no idea.
What food I need to have at Lynn? Like, what's Lynn's go-to thing? Because Lexington, being in a college stadium, some of the food is very
Bleh.
average.
But so we will break down that full game, and maybe even some of the food options on Wednesday's show. But John, let's close out the pro ranks today, and talk about another exciting event from this past weekend. A little bit of rain, a little bit of heat, and Lexington Sporting Club get the 1-0 victory over the Richmond Kickers. John, what did you see
Yes.
from your perspective in the stands?
One, this was the weirdest weather game we've had
Yeah, it was
because
weird to
for those
watch.
who don't know, I get there about 3 hours early
Oh my
to set
god.
up. And well, I do it to set up the section and so I can enjoy the tailgate.
Ah,
Because if I show up like an hour early, I won't get the section set up in time for me to actually enjoy the tailgate and stuff. Um, so while I'm setting up, I'm sweating because there's like barely any clouds in the sky, and it's been our heat wave. And then we get into the stadium and stuff from the tailgate, and there's like these dark luminescent clouds. We do the walkout, we do the national anthem, everything's good, and literally like the ref almost was about to blow the whistle. Players are like in position for the kickoff, and then Lexington's like field general guy who kind of like makes sure everything's on time and all that type of stuff. Oh, if they're on the field prepping for that and I see him walk on, I instantly knew they were in a lightning gate because he's doing the motion of like, all right, we
get
gotta
off
go
the field.
inside. Yeah,
Which,
because it started to rain and some people started leaving, and I looked at the people like, we don't have to leave unless there's lightning. Like we're allowed to be in the stands in rain.
yeah, and you can't crowd
And then
into the clubhouse, like, or the pro shop. I mean, because it is tiny.
oh, they have a lot of overhang stuff.
Oh, do
So
they?
I was chilling in front of a concession stand.
Mm.
It was me and the other railbirds. And so we go into an hour delay, or absolutely downpours, and then they get back on the field and stuff. We get in the stands for the entire first half. It's raining of some way until like the last 5 minutes. There was parts where it got a little more downpour, but it was mainly just light rain. And but it was a very chippy match, and I don't know if that chippiness was because of the field being wet. Like players were just more grabbing guys out of like balance versus like it
Maybe.
was hard to say. The ref very much was not. He was fair, but he wasn't calling stuff that should be called. Like there was a lot of pushes in the backs from both sides.
I mean, he did call a
I
PK in the
only
81st minute.
well then yeah, but that was that was a legit foul in the box. That was a legitimate foul. That's not debatable. There was just some pushing in the back type stuff. There was there was 2 dumb yellow cards.
Hey,
There
now
was
there are
one
no
given.
dumb yellow cards. Greatest band of all time.
There was. I'm not talking about that band. The first was against Khalid in like the 88th minute because like a free kick was given in the box and the keeper was gonna take it for Richmond, and so he like picked up the ball and tossed it to him. But because he tossed it a little too fast or something around the lines, I don't know. He got a yellow
What?
for that, and then Soso got a yellow. I
Yeah,
think
what did
Soso
he
got.
do? I saw that part. I don't know
I
what he
don't think
did.
that was supposed to be given to Soso. I just
Okay.
think the ref wasn't paying attention, and like what happens is the ball came in. And I think it was Tariq. Tariq like pushed the player and like the ref was turning or something, and like Sosa was running in to play the ball. And so all I think the ref saw was a player on the ground, people yelling at him, and see Soso. So I don't know,
Hmm.
but it was a very crazy night. There was a lot of. It was a very back and forth battle. Richmond was running a very high press, a very high press when they were at any time they were running with their back line. Like there was a point where their defenders were while Lexington had the ball, their defenders were almost at the half.
Man, they
Like
were
they were
really
running a
pushing high.
high. Well, it worked. I talked about this in my press. It was Lexington was very much the better attacking team, but the fact is their attack was starting like when they would get it to Nico, when they would get it to Ates, it was starting so much higher on the pitch that Richmond was able to recover. So it was a very smart system. It just over time it started to wear on them, type of thing.
And you mentioned Diouf there. He was the goal scorer off the penalty, his 10th of the season. Emil
Mm-hmm.
Knight, or the keeper for Lexington, did earn another shutout, adding to his total this year. Um, and overall, I thought it was a decent performance by Lexington. Was it flawless? No, but I think it would have been really challenging for any team to to perform in that kind of a weather.
These are one of the because me and Tyler Crane were talking about this. We have been like the turning point for teams a lot, and that was my fear of this game because the Kickers have now not won in 9 straight games. Their last one was on July 1st. So they are going to actively be going 2 months without a win because they don't play. No, they play tomorrow, or they play Wednesday, I think. So I think they have one last shot to win in the month of August and avoid not winning for 2 months. Yes, they play Fuego, so they have if they have a
Oh boy!
shot, it's Fuego at home for them,
Oh, it's at home. Oh,
but
come on.
for Kickers at home for Kickers. Now Fuego also just had like the thriller. So for Lexington fans, if the league you're like, what the league is barely talking about or shutout win, it's because Fuego and Madison and Red Wolves and Tormenta decided to go crazy and have 4-4 draws.
Yep.
With 2 stoppage time goals in the Red Wolves Tormenta game in a 90-plus minute, 2 of them. So that's partially why the league kind of like brushed over the rest of the games because 2 games went wild.
Yeah, I didn't
Um,
watch either of those, but I did see some of the highlights from the Madison game, and that was quite entertaining just to watch the highlights. I can't imagine what it was like
well,
in stadium.
I get like the leagues posting. And I was like, because Tormenta has a really good college group that supports them called the Flight Crew. Albeit I've gotten into some Twitter spats with them, but overall they're very good at supporting their team. They traveled up there, and there was this whole thing with them celebrating because they went up 4-3 in like the 92nd minute and all this type of stuff, and then like 5 minutes later, it's like equalizer. I was like, what?
Yeah,
Yeah, like look at all this. The
just
league
some
went
madness.
literally crazy. Omaha got their sixth straight win. No, like free falling NoCo beat the best team in the league. Like it was a wild night, sort of thing. So, but to bring it back to Lexington, they did. This was like a game that I feel like we would have lost earlier in the year.
Hundred
We
percent
would have
agree.
given up the penalty. We would have done that sort of thing, and it just they finally grounded out. They got the PK. They went for it, type of thing. It's stuff are finally moving our way, Lexington fans. We have 3 wins in our last 4. We're 3-1-1. Yes, it would have been awesome to beat Knoxville, but like we're trending in the right direction
Right,
to face Greenville on Friday.
and you move ahead of Richmond in the standings. You're now in the top 10, which again, this is an expansion side. Like this
We're
isn't
out of the bottom 9.
right. This isn't
We're the bottom third,
a group
fourth.
that we expected too much from. I mean, yes, Coach Stockley and the boys were going to give them hell all year, but it is nice to see them pushing for a playoff spot. Now, there are only 6 teams that make the playoffs in USL League One. And currently, Lexington sits, quick math, what is that, 9
9,
out of Greenville.
9 out. We are playing Greenville, so
So a chance
that
to get
win can
one
help
back.
narrow. We play Greenville twice. We play them this game, and then we play them the final game of the year. In all honesty, it might be hard to climb out
Yes.
of this, but it because a lot of things have to go Lexington's way for them to make the playoffs. What I say right now is what Knoxville's is it Knoxville or Tormenta's right ahead of us?
Knoxville is right above you at with 32 points, and Tormenta is right above them, also with 32 points. So they would
Knoxville and
love it
Tormenta
if
are
if Lexington could
yeah.
knock off Greenville.
Knoxville and Tormenta are your targets right now of trying to top them. And I said this overall of like, one, this is how crazy the league is. Of the regular season champion last year with the Kickers, and then the 2 finals lists in the championship with the Red Wolves and Tormenta are all out of the playoffs right now.
Yep.
Those are arguably, you could say, the 3 best seasons last year. Regular season champ and the 2 teams that made the final. And neither of them are in the playoff right now. So I'd say if you finish ahead of those 3 plus your rival in Knoxville, yes, they have the barrel, but you can say we finished above you in the standings.
Right. I think that would give
I
you a
think is
lot
a
of
win.
bragging rights to do that.
That is a win. That's a legitimate win in my book. Like UK versus U of L, like if U of L beats UK, but UK wins the national championship, like they're not. U of L's like, well, we beat you, and they're gonna be like, well, we got the ring.
Right.
So
Speaking of our college teams in our state, we know about Big Blue, we know about Big Red. Um, let's go on and jump to our college roundup for this week. And, John, kind of just want to hit on these. Don't have a whole lot of notes for the majority of these games, but we'll just kind of attack them in order, and we'll just kind of talk about from each team's perspective if we have notes on each other's teams and whatnot. So first off, University of Louisville men's soccer team, they had a huge upset victory in their first matchup against number 16 Tulsa. which was a great performance by them. It was really good to see Louisville coming out on fire like that. They really showed that they can compete. And I think the other teams in the ACC, they need to be on notice and watch out for Louisville because this is not going to be a pushover Cardinals team that they may have had in years past. It was a good performance. I really think that this one, and I'm basing all this on one matchup. I think U of L is poised to win the ACC over the defending national champion Syracuse, and of course, then make the NCAA tournament.
This is the same ACC with that Power Five guy we talked about earlier
Yes,
that had two teams
yes,
in the AC in that with Duke
yes.
and Syracuse. So this is a bit of an overreaction Monday thing
No, no,
from
never an
Jimmie here.
overreaction. No, never. And right now they are playing Bellarmine to a 2-0 victory so far. They've got about 32 minutes remaining in that matchup. Speaking of that match, John, we need to decide a name for it. What are we going to go with as the rivalry there?
I like Derby City Derby
Derby City
because
Derby. DCD.
yeah,
So that will be the
I like
official
that one.
title of that matchup, the Dirty City Derby, right there in Louisville between.
Derby City Derby.
Oh, did I
Yeah, it's a
say Dirty?
mouthful, but I like that one.
My bad.
Yeah, you
Derby,
said Dirty City.
Derby City Derby. Um, yeah, between the University of Louisville and Bellarmine University, one of the newest teams in um, NCAA Division One. Since we're talking about them, John, I'll go on and speak about them. Their first matchup was a 1-1 draw with the University of Evansville. Which, if you know anything about collegiate soccer in this area of the country, you know that the University of Evansville is a very good mid-major program. So that was a good result. Would have liked to have seen them get the victory, but uh, like I said, they're playing U of L tonight to a down 0-2 with 30 minutes remaining. John, let's jump over to Lexington and talk about the University of Kentucky.
So Kentucky, which is actively playing right now, it's still 0-0 in Lexington in the 69th minute.
Who are they playing again? Oh,
But
ETSU, right?
yeah, Eastern Tennessee State, Charlie Machel's alma mater. But they have they played their first game last Thursday, where they trumped Florida Gulf Coast
Dunk City,
all
baby.
goals. That is, you want to feel old? That was 8 years ago. Eight.
Hey, stop it.
I'm pretty positive that was 2015. So that was 8 years ago. Um, yeah, but that's the same thing I think of
Yeah.
because that's the only thing I know Florida Gulf Coast for.
I used to know somebody who worked down there for at Florida Gulf Coast, but they don't work there anymore. Great story. I'll tell it
Yeah.
again someday.
So the home opener for the Wildcats, all three goals came from their transfers.
Which was great.
Um, yep, those transfers came from that's Kamara, Dorsey, and Miller got the assist. Where is it? And McBride. Uh, they are looking dominant. Moles got his eighth career shutout. Granted, he only made 3 saves. But the women got some points in our Interstate Cup? Is that what we're calling it?
We're gonna talk about that later after the show.
Okay.
The post show.
They traveled down the Murray and they got some. They escaped with a 2-1 win because they had some late game heroics in that.
Yes, Murray
From
did their best.
Jordan Rose, who's on fire for the Wildcats. She has scored in all 4 of their games. She scored both goals in the 2-1 win over Murray State and scored in the 1-1 draw versus Valparaiso, where this one was a little more tightly contested. Valparaiso is not a terrible team, but this one they were a lot more physical. So I think it was just the Wildcats weren't prepared for that physicality. Like Valparaiso picked up 5 yellow cards and a red in this game, so it was pretty bad. But their defense stood firm in this. The Wildcats got off 17 shots, and they only allowed it. They only got 1 goal, so it's just one of those games.
I have to say, I love how you say that name.
Valparaiso, isn't it Valparaiso?
I mean, that is like if a
Say it.
European with Valparaiso, with my most Kentucky accent possible, or in short, Valpo, which is no less more southern than Valparaiso. Um, yeah, the Beacons, newly nicknamed the Beacons. They used to be the Crusaders or something like that, but they did a vote on campus to change the name. So the Beacons from Valparaiso, or as John
Yeah,
calls it,
it's Valparaiso. It's
there you go.
literally
That
just
sounds
got
like a European like soccer team, like in
it's
Italy.
it's like a Spanish origin
Uh,
apparently.
um, John, you mentioned it, but I briefly will add to that University of Kentucky versus Murray State matchup. Really competitive matchup. I think the heat from that match really played a factor in that game because I think we talked about this last week. Murray State does not have lights at Cutchin Field, so that game had to be completed before it was too dark to play. So
And
it was
they,
a very
for some reason, they didn't tell Kentucky to come down the night before and play like, why don't we play at like
at
10
11.
a.m. so these, yeah, or something like that, so that these girls aren't dying of heat stroke.
Yeah, and I almost wondered if that was maybe a UK coaching decision to not come down early. Um, we do have to remember these students still have classes to go to and stuff like that. So by it being a cross state travel, maybe they didn't want to come down and stay in a hotel. I mean, we are talking about collegiate soccer,
Murray is
so we
still
know their
far.
budgets aren't that big to where they maybe they couldn't afford an extra spontaneous overnight trip. I don't know. I mean, it is UK. Like, who am I kidding? Like, Mitch Barnhart could buy me 20 times over at this point. But, um, yeah, I don't know. Good performance. I was proud of my racers. But they did get their first win of the season. Murray State beat Jacksonville State, or Jackson State. I apologize. The HBCU to move to 3-1. Or I'm sorry, 1-3-0 on the season. Good victory. Solid competition down there with JSU, and glad that the Racers are no longer winless. John, why don't you close out the men's side talking about NKU?
Uh, so the Norse, which first off, NKU, get your athletic website together. I shouldn't have to click
Oh, please.
multiple times. I've clicked their schedule just to see results, and it's like error homepage, and it's like multiple times, and I'm like,
Yeah, and it's not just you. Like, I couldn't get it either.
I and it's the thing was like, and then they're like how they do their news stories on their pages are like out of order. Because
Yeah.
I'll be on there and it'll be like recap, and then they'll do the thing about the free games, which was before any of their games were played, and it was like 2020 schedule release, and they'll be like, "Oh, first game recap." I'm like, "This doesn't make sense."
Come on,
Uh,
Norris, get it together.
where are they? What is this? Is this the women? No, that's. I'm trying to find them in this. And I might right up here. We go. The men uh are start off to a oh, I believe drawn
Oh,
two
oh, and
straight.
2.
Yeah. 0-2 start. They tied UAB coming back from a first half deficit. This was a really early game. They kicked off at 10 a.m. This was set to be like a back to back home opener thing for the Norse between the men and women, but the Heat obviously changed that. Their senior transfer helped get that equalizer. Then they dominated offensively, and they were very, very sound defensively. It was just again, one of those games that's kind of the niche of college soccer where the keepers really make a difference in that clash. But uh, it wasn't a great trip to Kentucky for Florida Gulf Coast, as they also didn't get the result they wanted from the Norse, tying them with, again, NKU coming back from a first half deficit. Um, yeah, they got the equalizer in the 90th minute with 25 seconds left on the clock. Uh, so the Norse came really out for it and they escaped with that win. Um, but yeah, they're looking a little better. They're looking to start going, but they need to get a win. They'll be going. They'll be playing in a interstate matchup on the 4th against Bellarmine next. So we'll see how that goes.
And if you come back again on Wednesday, I keep saying Wednesday is going to be a really good show. Not that this one isn't awesome as well, but we will break down all of those college matchups coming later this week. John, I will take us down to Bowling Green, where the Lady Toppers have had a interesting start to the season. I'll say. After that big victory over Union, Western Kentucky had two games this past weekend. One was a 2-2 draw with Siena out of New York State, not City, which was a really frustrating match to watch as a fan, right? WKU was up 2-0 at halftime after some really good goals and was really looking like, hey, they're on a 7-0 run right now in their last two matches. They're looking real hot. And then they went cold as ice. And Siena got two goals in the second half and drew that game 2-2. That brought WKU's record to 1 win, 0 losses, and 2 draws on the season. And then on Sunday, WKU hosted number 17 Xavier out of Cincinnati, and this game was not even close. Xavier 5, WKU 1, giving the Lady Toppers their first loss of the season. And these two results, John, were really confusing to me because, I thought WKU had a lot of experience. They had the attacking prowess that I thought they could hang with somebody like an Xavier. They could get 2-3 goals. I never thought they would have given up five. I mean, the WKU keeper, Maddie, I don't I don't know how there was so many goals that went in that matchup. I thought she played better than letting in 5 goals. The defense really let her down in a couple of situations, but um, just kind of a confounding situation for WKU. They do continue to
It's
have more home games for Topper fans, but again, we'll talk about that on Wednesday. What were you going to say, John?
it's just like this is what college soccer is. It's the factor of that these are still student athletes in
Yeah,
particular, and they have practice restrictions. Like the pros have practice restrictions too, but it's not as restricting. Like I'm pretty sure the NCAA doesn't allow you to practice more than 4 hours, if that, in a given day,
right.
type of
Oh,
thing.
I'm sure it's less than that.
Yeah, so it's really hard to prep sometimes and to keep momentum sometimes. I don't want to mean this in any mean way, but in college, and this is in all sports, is where you truly have coaches who are like,
True.
how do I get the best? How do I plug and play the best team possible against this team? Whereas like the pros, like those are the top talented people. Sometimes it's just this is my best 11. I'm going to throw that out
Right.
there. And sometimes you can't throw out your best 11 because that's not how that works.
And Coach Nadell has done a really good job of recruiting. He does really good in the games of making substitutions and making sure that players are in the best positions possible, which to me even makes that 5-1 loss even more painful and honestly kind of surprising.
But yeah, it can happen though. Is my thing. Is like
True.
what it's just it's hard. And was that a midweek or a weekend game?
That was Sunday. That was last night.
Yes, Sunday games are also the weirdest in my
True.
opinion sometimes too.
Yeah, and as I'm learning here, these college teams, they'll play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Like they
Oh,
literally will play any day of the
yeah,
week.
the Spalding's doing like an invitational, and they're having teams play like 3 games in 3 days,
Jeez.
almost, or at least 2 in 3 days, type of
Hmm.
thing. And like, I get that they're all there in the same area for a weekend, but that's a lot.
That is a lot. Um, John, let's head on. If we're going to talk about Western, let's talk about Eastern.
So EKU has yet again to find their first win of the year, but they did get their first positive result in a 1-1 draw against Belmont.
Former
Um,
OVC rivals there.
yep. This freshman group that their coach, I'm gonna butcher it if I say it right now, has done really good. With Erica Cox scoring her first collegiate goal. It's the defense that still gets a little leaky at times, which this goal that Belmont scored to equalize it was crazy because it came off of a corner, to the front post. The girl there for Belmont like a scorpion flicked it type of thing, and went back a little more in front of the goal, and then a girl headed it in, and I was like,
Jesus.
what just happened? But other than they're playing strong. They're going to travel up to Chicago to face DePaul next. Um, but with Colonel fans, like your coach actually picked this non-conference schedule for a reason. He wanted to prep them for the A Sun. This is all these matches are to prepare for the A Sun. They're not to like he's not trying to win every single match. Well, he always is, but it's more like I want you guys ready for the A Sun versus like we're gonna do really good in non-conference and we'll see how we do in conference type of thing.
Yeah, I mean Belmont, no slouch in any sport, but especially in soccer, they're very, very competitive, both men's and women's. John, if we're going to talk about teams that have been confusing and honestly quite disappointing, I would be remiss not to talk about the University of Louisville women's soccer team. They started the week with a 2-1 loss to um, to Dayton, to the Flyers. Now the game was on the road, so give them a little bit of credit there. But then they had a 1-1 draw. I'm sorry, 0-0 draw with NKU, and I just don't understand where the offense is going to come from in that squad. They don't seem to have any strikers or forwards with any kind of playmaking abilities. And this University of Louisville team is going to get absolutely blown off the map when it comes to ACC play if they're still playing this badly. Currently, the roster or the record sets at 0 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws for the University of Louisville.
And one of those draws was right. Yep, against
Yeah.
and the NKU Norse, who this is the weirdest thing because I keep wanting to call them like Norsemen because I feel like that's what they're called a lot, but it's not. They're just the Norse, which is just a weird. There's some weird names out there. Like Norse is weird. I don't think like a lot of people say WKU Hilltoppers is weird, which is
Yeah,
it's
but
not.
I mean, it's
It's
literally
not.
built
No,
on a hill.
Western's name is not that weird. Y'all's mascot is weird.
Oh, Big Red. Oh, everybody love Big Red.
Oh, I
If you
love
find
him, but
somebody who doesn't like
it's
Big Red,
it.
I've found somebody I don't want to talk to.
I don't. I'm not saying I hate Big Red back with and when NCAA football things are a thing. I always picked him for the mascot
Good,
thing because the
good
ball would just
choice.
disappear. The ball would just
Yes.
disappear, and I found it the most hilarious thing. But the Norse had a positive week. They won over Miami of Ohio to get their first win of the season. That goal came early off of another freshman. Freshmen are doing really good for the women's teams, at least.
Indeed.
From freshman Natalie Newman. Uh, but it was a very defensive affair. Only 5 shots with a bunch of corner kicks throughout the whole match. And then uh, they they just weren't really completing in the final third, but they didn't need to. They got that 1-0 win, and then they went to Louisville, I believe. Yep, they went to
They did.
Louisville on Sunday night, and they
Late
got that
night Sunday
tie.
night.
Yeah, yep, 7:30, which is weird for students. Like I
Yep.
don't
Which I mean,
like
it's probably why there was like 50 people in the stands.
that's the funniest thing. It's like seeing some of these reported attendance. I'm like, there's just times where I just wouldn't. I just
Yeah,
personally
I
wouldn't.
just wouldn't.
But senior keeper Michaela Kowalski tied her career high in saves with 7. Um,
And she was
the,
really impressive, man. Like
yeah, the
I was the one
Norse,
that tweeted that out. Like that was really impressive. She was really
the
great.
the Cardinals had 21 shots. Granted, only 5 were
Yeah.
like or 7 or so were on target, but
Several were
she
very
was
erroneous.
yeah. But they stood firm. Um, so much so that the Cardinals were even getting a little chippy.
They
Very
were.
very foul. 7 more fouls than the Norse, even though the Norse picked up the 2 yellows.
John, I'll close out my teams by staying in Louisville and jumping over to the Bellarmine women's team. And if you want to talk about teams that have at least a one number in every category, this is your team right here. They started last week with a 3-0 loss to Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. Are we looking at Big Red? I've got the screen minimized, and all I see is Big Red. Let's go, Big
They
Red.
literally
He is eating that sign.
they literally just took a red blob and put eyes on it.
Hey, look, if you
And
want the whole history, come down to Bowling Green. I'll take you to the museum. Well, I'll
there's a
show you everything.
museum.
There is. Big Red has his own little corner that's like a mini museum
Oh, okay,
inside the
okay,
Alumni Center.
okay.
You can see the
I
original
thought.
Big Red.
Oh, I bet that's nightmare fuel.
Oh, come on down to Bowling Green. I'll show you. But back up to Louisville. Um, so after the Lady Knights had that unfortunate loss to Uwe Pui, they then returned home to play the University of Indianapolis, where they picked up their first win of the season, 1-0 over their former GLVC conference opponent. Um, John, take us home by heading out into the mountains and talking about how those Morehead State Eagles did this week, as the University of
Uh,
Louisville men's have added a third to go up 3-0.
and Kentucky just got their first in the 88th minute. Which this has been a really good game. Eastern Tennessee has definitely brought it. Um, I do not know who scored that because I can't. Number 23 for them. It's that it's the fact that they mob each other. And I have this on mute, so I don't know, hear the name. Moorhead, sadly,
BAAFI, Bafai. No, that was who entered the game.
sadly, the women, um, Moorhead fell to Indiana, who is a really strong school. They went on the road for that. They played really good. Their star keeper in Ern Gibbs, she made 8 saves, allowing in 3 goals, but 11 shots on target is against a top quality school, and truly she only let in 2 because the PKs are hard to stop, especially in when you're not that tall, because Gibbs is like 5'6", I think they said. She's not that tall. Um, but, but the Eagles really struggled with offensively. Granted, Indiana again is a Power Five. The Power Fives exist in women's soccer. People, just so you know, in men's they're kind of hit or miss, but the Power Fives
Yeah.
are more existent in women's soccer, or the traditional Power Fives, I should say.
The
Um,
teams are there. The who traditionally wins is varied from their football and
oh yeah,
basketball counterparts,
it's so
such
random.
as
Like
Indiana.
yeah, yeah. But it's they need to figure out an attack. That's really where the Eagles have been struggling, and they even against a top quality school, you still need to get more than 4 shots in the entire in 90 minutes. That's just
Yeah,
you need to.
that's a tough pill to swallow for them. But John, with that, that will conclude today's episode of the Bluegrass Soccer Cast. We'd like to thank everybody who was watching us both on the live and on the recordings. Make sure you follow us on all of our social channels: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at BG Soccercast, all one word. Make sure to give us a listen on all of those incredible podcasting platforms such as Spotify, Google, YouTube, Apple, iHeartRadio, and so many, many more. Hey, and while you're on there, please make sure to subscribe, follow, like, share, etc. Do all the things to help continue to grow this show and this platform. We've seen tremendous growth over the last month or so. So we really, really appreciate everyone continuing to share and engage with us on social media. We really, truly appreciate it. But that's John. I'm Jimmy, and we will see you on the next one.